Hey, what's going on, y'all? Got a quote for today, man. It's pretty straightforward and simple. It's from my another good brother, Sankara, um, very noble brother on the African continent. Within our most of our lifetime, this brother was around and died. But pretty straightforward and simple. He who feeds you controls you, right? And I think it's pretty much self-explanatory, but I'm going to add my 2 cents to what I think the brother was hitting at here, what we should take away from it, and what I take away from this quote is essentially uh, wherever you gather your main fundamental resource besides shelter and clothing, the third thing is food. Whomever is providing that food for you. And when I say who feeds you, I'm not saying that the person is actually giving you the food for free, but who's taking that food from the actual farm to the grocery store and then selling it directly to you. Who's growing the food? Where's the food being grown? And for what reasons are those foods being grown? What type of products, when I say products, pesticides and things like that are being put on top of those particular foods so that they are not eaten by insects? And then what type of other genetically modifications have they done to the seeds of said food, and for what reasons, and what are the reactions to those modifications do we have as humans to those? And even if you dissect it even further, when you are talking specifically Black folks, whether that be us here in the U.S., right, in the diaspora, or on the motherland and the continent, what type of effects do those food have on us? So that's essentially what the brother is saying. He who feeds you controls you. So if you don't have any way to produce and grow your own food, then you are still an enslaved person. And it's very, I should say obvious, very key that we know that if we're not in control of all of those things that we need to survive as a human on this earth, and they're controlled by our people, when I say our people, I'm talking about Black folks, then we are thus being controlled by someone else, right? Because as soon as that person pulls that resource away, i.e., food, what are you going to do to get that resource? It's something you have to live and to sustain yourself and to be vibrant as a human being. So you have to do essentially what that person wants you to do, i.e., they control you to get that food. And then the other thing can be also be said for monetarily as well. So this may not just be a actual physical somebody feeding you, but also from a monetary standpoint. So basically, who feeds you, and if I'm talking about employs you, controls you. And so if you go look at what people typically are post on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, this platform on today, a lot of our people would be a lot more outspoken if they knew they didn't have to go back to white mommy and white daddy uh, and go beg for those coins on that Monday or that next morning or whenever it may be. But since they know that they're feeding you, i.e., paying for you, giving your family money every bi-weekly, monthly, however often they pay you, then they know that they control you because they essentially can censor you and say that the things you're saying on the internet are not becoming of that particular company. Or a lot of them always have, they have these values in action are not in line with our values in action, so to speak. So therefore, a lot of us are oftentimes censored, but we have to break those shackles and those chains and just speak truth to power and let it be known on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, whatever it may be, Instagram, and deal with the consequences that they be. Although I know that's pretty tough and harsh, but if we start to have our own businesses and start to support one another, then we will be in control of ourselves because we will be feeding ourselves. We will be dependent upon um, other Black folks as opposed to white people, or Chinese or whomever, Asians, whatever that group of people may be. And really, if you start to reverse this, he who feeds you controls you, and think of it at the point where oftentimes the other groups, the Europeans, the Chinese, the other Asians, Japanese, they're actually feeding off of us because we're silly enough to continue to purchase all of our products outside of our community. But that's neither here nor there. That's for another day. But going back to his quote, he who feeds you controls you. That's a key message that I think we need to understand as we move forward in 2018. All right, folks, that's it for today. I'll at you tomorrow.